Hi everyone, dear listeners. Today we are gathered for a tech talk on test documentation in Agile topic. In the world of software, especially when working with Agile methodology, understanding how to effectively document tasks within the framework is crucial. And our esteemed speaker for today's session is Maria Ikimenko, a seasoned professional with a wealth of experience in Agile methodologies and test documentation skills. So let's warmly welcome Maria to share valuable insights on the topic. So over to you, Maria.
Yeah, thank you, Camila. Thank you very much. Hi everyone. Hope you are doing great today. First of all, thank you that you're coming for this tech talk today. And let me introduce myself. So, my name is Maria Yakimenko. I'm a lead software testing engineer in EPAM. I work in EPAM for about 2 years and a bit. But I have overall 10 years experience in software testing. I have experience in team leading, and also I have a brief period of time when I worked as product owner. Okay, so let's switch over to our agenda today. We are going to cover a few topics that you see on your screens. First of all, it's why and what test documentation is necessary in Agile, types of test documentation on a project, and I will share with you some practical tips and tricks. And also, I'm going to show you, demonstrate you for a few examples of composing test documentation using AI tools. Okay. First of all, let's remind ourselves what is the QA process in Agile. As you know, QAs are always involved in Agile processes, in sprint, in development stream. Yeah, so we write documentation, or we testing, we deploy. Sometimes some of you can take participation in deploy process. Yeah, we do some regression testing and system testing. But in Agile, on the other hand, you know that we have iterations from 1 to 4 weeks, and we have a less emphasis on testing itself, yeah, and on writing documentation, because we need more focus on the testing, on the involvement into all development process. So knowing all of that, why do we still need a documentation? Let's try to answer this question today. So first of all, it's documentation is collaboration and communication. You know that clear documentation in Agile facilitates effective communication among the team. And this ensures that everyone is on the same page regarding the goals, timelines, and processes. The next one is visibility and transparency. Documentation provides visibility into testing activities and results. So it allows all teams that involved into development to have transparent insights into what tested and what results do we have from the testing. And maybe even we will know what identified issues we have. The next one is reducing risk. You know that Agile testing documentation involved is some risk management, yeah, yes, and associating with these risks with features being developed. It will help your team to make informed decisions if needed, and also know the testing priorities and resource allocations. The next one is facilitating automation. In many teams, you know, in many Agile teams, we have also automation part and also have automation testers. And you know that some test cases that you write, then they will later be automated. For example, to cover some regression activity or smoke testing. So, of course, you need to provide your automation testers good test cases, yes, that they can write the automated scripts based on this documentation. Knowledge transfer. For example, your test cases or checklists maybe can be included into onboarding. So you can just provide the list of smoke testing of smoke checklists to your new team members, and they will go through this list and get to know better about the system overall in general. And of course, comprehensive regression testing. You know that while we developed, development is pretty often, the releases are pretty often in Agile. So we need to do regression also more often than in waterfall, for example. So that's why your checklists and your test cases will be used as needed documentation while you're doing regression testing. Let's switch to another slide. And before we move to the documentation that often used on a project, I want you to write down your comments about what test documentation do you typically use on the project. So yeah, let me see your answers. And I think we will have 2 or 3 minutes for your answers, and then we'll continue. Yeah, I see. Test plan, test strategy, test cases, test strategy. Test plan, test strategy, test case, text execution results, requirements. Yeah, great. So yeah, as I see, you know, yeah, we use pretty the same test documentation on all the projects. Yeah, not here in NIPAM, but I think outside as well. Yeah, plan, strategy, reports, cases, traceability matrix. Does someone prepare some checklists maybe? Yeah, the most popular I see it's test plan, test cases, test strategy. Of course, it's the main part of testing documentation. Yeah, I agree. So my next slide, it's about testing documents in Agile. I try to summarize here what I've used previously on the projects, and from what I see, I was right. Yeah, these documents are really in a common use among the QAs. So first of all, it's of course test strategy. As you know, it's high-level static document. Usually it prepares by a QA manager, and it should not be changed during the project. And it defines software testing approach from the high level, yeah. The next, it's test plan. It's usually prepared by QA lead, and it describes what to test, how to test, when to test, and who will do what testing. The next test case, I think it's the most common document we use on the project, and I know that you are all familiar with that. It includes step-by-step instructions, zero conditions, and most recent inputs for testing tasks. Usually, also I use cases. It's a document that written in less formal language, and usually it describes a scenario that should be tested from end user perspective. Sometimes you need to communicate more thoroughly with the business analyst, for example, or product owner. And after this communication, you will write these use cases from the user perspective. And you should think, of course, as end user. Checklists. They are just documents. Sometimes it's just a string. They contains a brief information, brief description and functions that should be tested and should be verified. And they have usually status, pass or fail regarding was it successfully tested or not. And bug report. Bug report usually includes information about a bug that you found during your testing, yes, and document the steps to reproduce it. Of course, sometimes it can also include preconditions, post-conditions, maybe some test data for developers, yes. So everything about bug we should just write here into bug report. Okay, let's move on. And I'd like to share with you some best practice to getting great results from testing documentation. So your testing documentation will be really helpful and useful. Okay, and first of all, use a knowledge-based system as a single source of truth. So you should have one repository when you just store your requirements maybe, and also you will store your test plans, test strategy, test cases. So every team member can, of course, this team member should know where he or she can find it, and he or she will know that this documentation will be really truly. Keep your test documentation up to date in line with requirements. You know that it's a common thing in Agile that our requirements change somehow, yes, so you need to keep your test documentation always up to date with those requirements. Regularly check your test documentation for relevancy. It's maybe pretty the same as previous one, but here I mean that sometimes system can change and some requirements will be outdated. So you need to delete, for example, from your base the outdated test cases or checklists just to be sure that you are aligned. Follow a template to ensure consistency across documentation. It's really good to use some template, for example, for the test cases, so all the team members will follow it, and you have a pretty strict document where everyone can open and see and understand what this about and what should be tested by this test case. Educate the team members about the importance of test documentation. It would be better if you share with your team why test documentation is important. So try maybe to involve, for example, developers into test case review session, because sometimes, for example, from my practice, I faced with the situation when I invite all the Agile team into test cases review, and only me and business analyst came to this session. No, you need to tell a developer that you need to communicate from the early stage of development, and you need to review these test cases, and maybe they, from their point of view, can also advise you something, and I know, point to the some cases that you missed. And last but not the least, Avoid treating documenting as a box checking exercise. Don't write the documentation only to cover all the requirements or acceptance criteria. No, you should know that this documentation will help you to improve your system, to improve your features. Okay, that's all from this slide. So let's move on. And for example, if you have 1 week sprint, yeah, sometimes there is not enough time to write the excessive documentation. So what can we do to try to have a little time, yeah, to write some, for example, some checklists at least. So first of all, trying to integrate test strategy into test plan. Yeah, combine these two documents and it will save you time not to manage the separate documents, but you can just have one and it will be really easy for you to track it. Use shared test cases. Try to create a central repository of test cases that everyone can use. For example, try to write these test cases for common functions, for common activity, for login, for registration, for maybe some data validation. And this approach really saves you time not to write these test cases from scratch, but use the existing ones. Reuse test data. It's really pretty the same as previous one, but here we are talking about test data. For example, I don't know if you have some. If you can avoid the creation of new test data for each test case, it would be really great, and it's really save your time. Actively participate in developers' coding processes. So, as developers should be involved in reviewing the test cases, you sometimes need to be involved to participate in developers' coding processes. Try to visit maybe some code review sessions and collaborate with developers on early stage. Because it simply saves you time for the bugs. For writing bugs reports, yeah, you can prevent the bugs on early stage, so you will save time for yourself, not to, I don't know, create 100 bugs and create 100 bug reports, and just focusing on some else activities. Use behavior-driven development for test case creation. Sometimes you need to sit with business analyst and product owner and communicate with them, and then try to write your tests in more plain text. So everyone in your team will be able to read these test cases and understand what do you need here to be tested. It can help you, for example, if you will be on vacation or on sick leave. So someone from another guy, yeah, from your team can just go through these test cases and test the functionality. And the last here, it's write checklists instead of test cases. As I previously mentioned, yeah, checklist is one string, usually, yeah, with pass or fail result, and this will help you time. Will save you time to cover your functionality, not with the huge test cases, but with the simple strings to check just yes or no, pass or fail. So it will help you to reduce the time spent to test, for example, for regression testing or smoke testing. So try to do this tip. And I want to emphasize a little bit more on the last item, on write checklist instead of test cases, because in my practice I use it pretty often. So, why to write checklists instead of test cases? The benefits of it, of course, it's easy to use. Yes, they're easy to understand. They are more understandable and they are more useful in some cases. The next benefit is versatility. So checklists can be applied to different features, yeah, and test situations. The next is saving time. As I mentioned before, so using checklists helps you allocate more time, for example, for exploratory or maybe for load or usability testing or accessibility testing, if you are doing these types of testing by yourself, of course. And its ability to document progress. Uh, Checklists allows you to track steps and see what has been tested and what is remains to test. But of course, don't forget about some disadvantages. First of all, its limitation. Yes, so checklists may not be effective, for example, for some complex features or non-routine test scenarios. In this case, yes, better to spend some time and write an excessive test cases, just to be on the safe side. The next one, it's incomplete coverage. Checklists may not provide all possible scenarios, outcomes of test situations. Yeah, and you need to revise it because some of test situations can be skipped. That's all about write checklist instead of cases, instead of test cases slide. So some of my tips that I wanted to share with you. And let's move on. And here I'd like to tell about generative AI tools that can help you to create the templates of your test documentation. As you know, we all, these generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, or we have here our internal application that calls EPAM AI Dial. It can help you in your routine work, in your routine QA work, also with creating a test documentation. Why not? Sometimes it can really save you a lot of time. I did a small research and see that prompts can be created in two popular ways with the help of two popular frameworks. One of them called Create and the second one Prompt. They are pretty the same, so I don't know, let's discuss the first one. So first it's C, character. So set the stage of your prompt. Here I mean that say the ChatGPT, for example, that he need to act as a manual QA or act as I don't know, QA lead. The next row it's a request. It's a request. It's the prompt itself. Yeah. So what do you want from ChatGPT? What do you want him to write or something like that? And pay attention that you need to really be specific here. The more you're specific, the more strict and precious result you will have. Examples, you can provide some examples if you want, if you'd like. For example, if you have some template for test cases on your project, so you can just copy and paste this example to AI tool, and it try to give you a response according to that example. Adjustments, refine for perfection. It's really hard, sometimes to get the response that you will be satisfied with. And that's why you need sometimes to ask him more questions or give him more suggestions just to adjust the response, and when you will be satisfied, then you can stop to do it and just copy the response and use it in your routine work. Type of output defines the format. It's about formatting the text. For example, if you want the result will be in some numerals format, or maybe in the view of table, so you can just define that the result should be in bold text, size 24, for example, and it gives you a result accordingly to your output, type of output. And extras, it's pretty the same as adjustments. So maybe, yeah, it's some extra data that you want to insert to AI tool, and just to perfect your its response. Prompt framework, sorry, it's pretty the same. Persona, it's character, yes, so defines the role. Request, the same, your answer. Output type, the same, so defines the format of the text that you would like to have. Modifier, it's adjustments. Yes, so shape the response through some specific questions. Provide example. The same as in create example, so give him an example or some templates. And tone. So if you want him to be strict or creative, so just set the tone, style, or manner of AI's reply. And I cannot mention, and I should mention here that before using any generative AI tools, please review our KB page here. I give you the link in this presentation, and complete the training about generative AI. I think this training you should receive this training a few days ago or maybe months ago. But if you skip, just go and just back and go through it. Because we have some restrictions, for example, that we are not allowed to provide to generative AI tools some specific project information. Or maybe some personal data. So please, yeah, go through this page and just use it safely. Okay, so let's move on. On these screens, I'd like to provide you some examples that I create in EPAM, that I create with the help of EPAM AI Dial. And here I mention the temperature that I set when I just communicate with the AI dial. And here you see temperature 0.1. This temperature allows AI dial to be more strict. So it will not be some, I know, creative, yeah, and use some diversity results. So it will be more strict and define the result and give you the result as you defined in your prompt. Here, for example, I ask him a simple example, act as a queue manager. So I define the role, yeah. Write a test strategy for the mobile application. And the domain is ordering food from restaurants based on user location. Application should be supported on Android and iOS platforms. And you see here that EPAM dial was pretty strict, so he gave me basic fields from basic sections that test strategy should have: objective, scope, testing approach, user registration, and login. Yeah, some test cases, test scenarios. He also includes here compatibility testing and performance testing. And on the next slide, I use the same prompt but set the temperature equals to 1. And here you see that he included introduction section, yeah, so the strategy for the photo ordering to describe. So he was it sorry it was more creatively, and it also helped me to create some objectives and to perform the objectives as numerous lists. So he include also test environments here, and actually I'd like to show you this in live example, the using of EPAM AI dial. So let me switch to EPAM dial window. Okay. Yeah, can you see it now? I hope you can see. And let's, for example, ask EPAM AI dial to create for us some test cases. I have a template. Let me copy it. And actually, I like to work with the EPAM eDial when it's pretty precious. So I set the temperature 0.1. What I want, act as manual QA, write positive and negative test cases for the acceptance criteria below. I just found and copy some acceptance criteria in the internet. So it's a usual case of login. So we just want to check that functionality. Let's run the prompt. So here, as you can see, he just provided us the list of positive test cases and negative test cases. But it's just the names, yeah, not test cases itself. So I will try to adjust my prompt and ask him to write test case according to the template that I will provide. So I write each test case as the example below and give him the example. Yeah, so test case, priority, preconditions, steps to reproduce. So let's try to run. Okay, and he will now he will provide me a test case in my format. Yeah, so the number of test cases: first one, valid login credential, successful login, priority high, preconditions, step to reproduce, and expected results. Everything is numerals format and looks pretty good, yeah. And now, for example, let's format it a little bit and ask him to emphasize all the fields, yeah, test case, priority in bold. And now you see that it has a pretty good format, yeah, so you can copy and paste, for example, in Confluence, and just maybe a little bit try to edit this test case, but in general, it's pretty to use in your work. Okay. I think that's all that I wanted to share with you for today. And let me just reshare my screen. Just a second, bear with me. And I think we can switch to QA part. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in our chat.
Yeah, as I can see, we had plenty of comments during the main part, so we can take a look at one of the comments related to shared cases use. So the question is, could you give an example of shared test cases use?
Yes, of course. For example, it's a test case about login. the one that we just saw in EPAM Agile. Yes, so if you have, for example, some features that first need to that your user should be logged in, and then do some actions. So you just can open test case, yeah, and your first row will be look into test case number and just copy the link of your shared test case and insert into your new test case that you are writing. And then the next step, you will assume that your user is logged in, and then you can create a test case according to the functionality that you need to check.
Okay, thank you, Marina.
I see here a pretty good comment that please mind that AI output needs thorough checking. Yes, of course, you need always to recheck the results that AI gives you, and you are the last person to decide if to use it or not. Yeah,
Okay,
so thank
thank
you
you.
for this comment. Yeah, it's really great.
Let's move on to our next question. Can you give some example of the strategy and difference between test and use cases?
Some example of test strategy. If you'd like, I can provide you with the data of this presentation. I can provide you some document, for example. Because in test strategy, we usually write. We usually mention, for example, the test approach. Yes, so it will be unit testing, black box testing, white box testing, which environment you will use in the test strategy, for example. Yes, so how many environments, for example, will you have during your testing? QA developers, some environment for UIT testing. So yeah, I just can provide you the template of this document, and you can just go through it and see. In difference between test case and use case, test case usually it has more technical details, you know. So it's connect to database, for example. You need to check some roles, for example, in database. And use case, it's just high level checking from the user perspective. So you don't need to check if some data, for example, was written into database, or you don't need to check that, for example, data from front end side was sent to back end side. No, you just need use case. It just open site, enter credentials into fields, and just click login, and expected result. Yeah, and you see the welcome page, for example.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is already in the chat. Let me share it. When time is limited and there is no opportunity to create documentation at all, how to test the release?
You know, when we don't have time at all, I usually test it by acceptance criteria. So you just open your requirements and go one by one by acceptance criteria, and try to check your functionality according to that. Or sometimes you can use some exploratory testing, for example. Yes, so just or another case. If you know some tough places in your functionality, you can go and check these tough places. For example, if it's e-commerce project, you can check the cart, the functionality to purchase some product. I don't know. So yeah, but usually, I just open requirements and go by acceptance criteria.
Okay, big thank you, Marina. And just a kindly reminder for our listeners, please don't hesitate to write down your questions, because we have a few time to go through your questions. So if we have some of them during the main part, please share it. And for now, we have one more question from our audience. Okay, how to have the clean test plan and strategy?
Good question. Thank you. You need to involve your stakeholders, and for example, if you are QA lead and you need to write some test plan, yeah, you need to have a consultation with maybe your QA manager, or if you don't have QA manager on on project, try to involve stakeholders, developers, developer team lead, business analytic, and just ask them about the main functionality and the um main I know main ideas, not the ideas. Sorry, I forgot this word. So you just need to know what is in a high priority for your stakeholders, and then you can write a test plan according to that priorities.
Okay, thank you. And let's move on to the next question. Who should be invited for the test cases review sessions?
As I mentioned in my presentation, you need to involve here all developers, business analysts, of course, product owners, because all your team should know what are you going to cover by your test cases, and what part of functionalities should be covered. Because yes, sometimes developers can advise you a little bit more about some scenarios or tough places.
Okay, thank you for valuable advices. And it seems that no, we've not finished with the Q&A part. We have one more question. Okay, is it reasonable to use any test management tools, or they are useless in mostly cases?
No, I think it's really reasonable because, for example, if you use Zephyr, yeah, for Jira, so you can integrate. It's integrated, yeah, and you will see which requirement is covered by which test cases, for example. But for example, on my last project, we don't have any test management system. We use only Excel. In this case, you need to keep in mind that you should update it thoroughly and accordingly. So only in this case, your test cases will be up to date.
Okay, thank you. And several more questions. The first one is that if project's budget is very tight and it's difficult to justify a very thorough testing, what can be your strategies of prioritization when it's important to push to invest into testing?
It's difficult to justify result testing, but can you use strategies of prioritization? It's not a bit about documentation, it's more about QA management. And I don't have such experience in QA management, But from my point of view, I think you have some, as I mentioned, yeah, you have some fields, some critical fields. For example, it's about the money, yeah, it's some, I don't know, e-commerce system. It's registration that your new users will come to your web application and just register. So maybe you need to pay more attention on that field.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And the next question is how often test cases review sessions should happen?
Actually, it once in a sprint. Yeah, so after you are ready with your documentation, you just arrange that meeting and you will review the scope of your test cases with your team. Usually, yeah, it's if you have, for example, classic 2 weeks sprint. Usually, I had such review sessions uh, at the end of first week of the sprint.
Thank you for sharing your experience. And we have additional question related to test management tools from the same user. So if the test management tools are powerful, how to have they clear and powerful? So as I understand, how can we improve the using of test management tools?
uh, just try to document all your test cases, of course. Just try to keep your documentation in order. Maybe, I don't know, filter it somehow or sort it by features. Of course, check if the test cases that you have is up to date. And what I previously used, for example, I in Jira for each requirement, I link the test cases that I used to check this requirement for, and in that case, I saw that if I open some requirement, yeah, that I saw that all the tests passed, or maybe some test was failed, and I need to recheck it. Yeah. Try to keep it in order.
Okay, hopefully the user will find it helpful. And probably the last question for our Q&A part. What having a clear test plan means for you?
I miss this part, but what means by having a clear test plan? For example, your team members, your QAs, yeah, your testers can go through it and understand what should be tested. So it keeps a really good sections about objectives. It has test cases that should be covered during testing. And also it has a definition of done. So yeah, when we are going to stop our testing, for example, and sometimes I also included that what is not in scope. So you will know that some of part will not be covered in MVP, and you can skip it. So yeah, you just your team members can go through this plan and understand what should be tested in this on this project during developing this feature, specific feature.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And it was the last question for today. And we are finishing our tech talk, and I want to express our appreciation to you. A big thank you, Maria, for your engaging presentation and for generously sharing your knowledge. To our listeners, we hope you found today's discussion quite informative. And if you have any more questions or thoughts, feel free to share them in the comments. And of course, if you want to express gratitude to our speakers, one of the best ways to do this is to send badges to our speaker via their community or internal heroes portal. I think it will be appreciated. And if you're interested in the upcoming events or tech talks, please subscribe to our social networks. So thank you and have a nice day. See you
Yeah. Thank
in
you.
the
Take care.
next events.
Bye bye. Thank you.